LinkedIn who are watching this, there are some very strange people in the comments and they're posting links that are not for this event. So if you're watching on LinkedIn right now, in the comments, there are people who are trying to basically, they can't put their own event on, so they're posting, spamming links to get you away to their event. So we are here and live. Hi, Philip. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. I've come on a little bit early just so that people are here and we can check that the feed and the streams are working okay. Do let me know where you're joining from in the chat. That would be great. The chat's live. I can see the chat here. So I can see Philip's joined. Welcome. So please do let me know where you're joining from. It'd be great to have you and hear from you. And we will start in about 2-3 minutes time. Just whilst you're getting everything ready and whilst the feed's kicking in and everything and just checking that all the feeds are working across all the channels. You don't need to take notes today. It's just as good if you think about what I'm saying as we're watching today rather than go nuts on all the information. So I can see some people are joining. Alejandro, Niall, somebody else from LinkedIn in London, San Francisco, awesome. So we're going to start in a couple of minutes. I'll go through what we're going to cover today, and I'm going to relate it to LinkedIn, but it could relate to any social channel, it could relate to email, and I'll try and give some examples across different channels. But we're going to really cover what does it take to generate leads and sales in 2022 even. And just if you're watching on LinkedIn, just so that I can make you aware, there is some really unscrupulous people spam commenting in the chats, trying to get you to go to a link that isn't us. So they're really naughty, but you can probably see them in the chat. They're going nuts, posting. It's nothing to do with us. We've reported them to LinkedIn and they just make more fake profiles. It's nuts. Anyway, we're going to kickstart. So there's a few people, some people, Katerina's watching from Ukraine, Philip from San Francisco, Adnan from India, Omar from Nova Scotia, Alejandro from Guatemala. So it's brilliant that people are watching from all over everywhere, which is awesome. So we're going to kickstart. Kyle. Yes, Kyle, I've had an awesome Christmas. Well, ish. I was due to go away, didn't in the end. Jeffrey from Seattle, welcome. Kyle in Essex. I went to London for a bit of Christmas. We were due to go to New York and decided not to go because of the dreaded word. But yeah, people are joining now, which is awesome. So everybody's here. Ohio, Cardiff. Catherine, I can almost do a good Welsh accent, but I don't want to do it and get in trouble. Sean from Houston. Evelyn from Barbados. Fabio from Italy. Niam from Dublin. Antonio from Portugal. Ram from India. Awesome. So, yes, Gurat from Dubai. So brilliant, good group of people joining from all across there. There is, again, one of these unscrupulous people. Do not click the link in the chat. There's some people just trying to spam comment on the chat, which we banned them and reported them. Andrew Constable, Happy New Year. I've not seen you at Silverstone so far this year yet. James Bloom of Wisconsin. So brilliant, good group of people here today, and more people are joining, which is great. Catherine's not Welsh. Ashish, don't worry about the links, just watch here. We'll send you a replay. So if I just explain the ground rules of what we're going to cover in this session today, everybody should be joining from wherever they're joining right now, so hopefully they're all jumping in. Where we are and what we're looking at today is some of the thought process, the strategies and the tactics you can use to generate leads and sales in 2022. So this is going to be a session of two halves. We're going to cover the strategy part first, and then we're going to go into some ideas and things that you can do to generate leads. Now, we can't go into, we've already got 90 minutes, so we can't go, nuts on everything. But we will have some time for questions as well. So if you want to put some questions in the chat as we go, as I see them, I'll pick up. So the chat's right in front of me, right there. So I can look at the chat and go, okay, somebody's got a question. Strategy first, tactics second. And so we'll break that down into the two sections. And as we go, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat so I can see them and I can interact with you, and away we go. Awesome. So the first thing I want to do is, if you've never joined one of our sessions before, I want to just give you a little intro. It'll be one slide and we're done, to who Maverick is. So Maverick, we're a training company based in the UK, but we've got an office in the US and an office in central London, an office in Plymouth. And we, as a business, train and support companies and individuals who want to grow their business. They want to grow sales, and they want to grow revenue, and they want to increase their prices. So we teach and train into these areas. We don't practice cold calling, but we do teach all of the other methods of organic business growth that you can do. Hey, Ryan, you might get a special mention a bit later. So some people are joining, which is good. And I want to just talk about my objective for today's session. My objective for you, what's success today from this session in the 90 minutes we've got together, is to give you strategy and tactics that will bring you sales and leads, or leads and sales. You will have to go and implement this. You will have to go and take action. But I will give you the tools and I will give you the know-how to help you take action. That's my objective for today's session. So if you are running a business, you're a salesperson, you can implement this, and I'm going to give you some very, very simple ways to implement this. Leads and sales should not be complicated, should not be hard to generate leads. So we're going to make it as simple and as straightforward as possible in today's session. So the first thing I want you to think about, and somebody's asked, is it possible to get a replay? Yes, we will share a replay. You can drop us your email on the link on the screen, and we will share the replay with you. So please do, if you want the replay or any of the references, a copy of the slides, anything like that, just drop us an email. And I'm also going to share a resource with you. We will be doing a training session on this in the new year, later in the new year. I keep saying later in the new year. It is the new year. It's 2022. My mind's not got there yet. So we will share a resource with you. If you want it, you can email it. I'll ask the team to put the details in the chat. It's 5 strategies to increase sales, and it's a lead magnet that we'll share with you by email tomorrow. We're wrapping up after this. We've got another session for the US team later, but we'll wrap up after this session. We'll send it to you tomorrow. 5 strategies to increase sales. If you want a copy of it, it's free. We'll email it to you after the session tomorrow. So can you put that in the chat, guys, for us so that they can see that? 5 strategies to increase sales. Drop us an email. We'll send you the worksheet for that. Brilliant. Right. So 90% of your market. Ashish, please email us. Don't put your details in the chat. Can you put the details, 5 strategies to increase sales? Email us. If you want this, email us. Email us. Email us. Don't put your email in the chat. Email us. So hi@maverick.io. Drop us an email, hi@maverick.io. So 5 strategies to increase sales. We'll give that. I'll share about that again, and tell you can email through. Cool. Awesome. So 90%, this is a research statistic, 90% of your customers, your market, are not looking for what you're buying right now or what you're selling right now. 90% of what you're selling, of your market, are not interested in what you're selling right now. 90%. I'm not going to depress you on the 3rd of January, but this is a fact. It's a fact that just a fraction of your audience are currently looking to buy. And so it's quite disheartening when you think about it. It's quite depressing, but it's not when you start to think about this a little bit differently. I'm starting with this statistic on purpose because it will help you think a little bit differently about how you approach lead generation and how you approach sales. So 90% of the market, 9 out of 10 are not looking for what you're selling. So when we think about all of the activities that we're doing to generate leads and generate sales, and we wonder why do we get such low response rates, it's because the majority of people aren't looking and so are not interested. But that doesn't mean that they don't need you. So despite 90% of your customer base or target audience not needing you, or seeing they need you, they actually do. If you look at your whole customer base, and this is a big complaint of lots of businesses, they say, it's so frustrating. We know we can help them, but they just don't get it. They just don't see it. And so this is true for most sectors, nearly all sectors, that 90% of the market, the addressable market, aren't looking for what you're selling. In truth, all the research says that 3% of the market are actively looking, just 3%. So if you think about that, 90% aren't looking, 3% are actively looking. What are the other 7% doing? Well, that 7% of the market, the addressable market, are actually kind of sat on the fence. They're looking, but they're not serious. The 3% are actively and very seriously engaging. So the challenge in generating leads, the challenge for us in is tough. It's like, hang on a minute, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. How do we get in front of them? How do we find them and how do we get in front of them? It's hard, it's tricky, it's tough. There's lots of decisions and discussions and debates about what's right, what's wrong, all of those things. I'm going to nail those today. We're going to nail those issues today. And I'm going to propose something to you, that just because the 90% aren't interested does not mean we go on a treasure hunt for clients. We don't go hunting them out, trying to find them the needle in the haystack. I'm going to propose to you in today's session that actually we create them. We create clients. We don't find them. We don't generate them. We create them. Like a machine. We build a machine to create clients. And I'm going to give you some examples of this so you can understand it a little bit better. If you're still with me and you can still see me, do let me know that you're alive in the chat. So just put, I'm here in the chat if you can see me and you can hear me and you're getting this feed through okay. We're going to create the client. So put in the chat, I'm here, so that I can see you and see that you're all here and paying attention. So we're going to walk through, what does it mean by creating clients rather than hunting clients? Like, if we use cold email, if we use cold calling, we're ringing numbers to find people who are going to be receptive. Whereas we create them. We want to create them. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of companies we've worked with. This company we worked with about 3 years ago. Video production company, very well set up, very well kitted up, really solid company. And they were struggling to win clients, close deals. They were putting in tenders, but they were not getting the level of inquiries, inbound, nothing was seeming to work. It felt like a struggle. And so we did a strategy session with them and looked at how can we solve some of the issues that they've got. And what we looked at is their company in detail. And we looked at how they'd position themselves, we looked at how they'd set everything up, and they were losing the majority of the deals they were getting. So what we did is we repositioned them. We looked at it and go, based on what your customers' pain points are, what their challenges are, you are not in the right place. You are presenting yourself, you're marketing yourself over here, but your market is over here. And so I'll give you the example of what we did with them. They were trying to get into more TV commercial work, and they were struggling to do it. They were struggling to achieve it. They were struggling to get the conversion. People liked their proposals, but didn't buy. So what we did is we showed them this client creation process, whereby they're appealing to the 90%, well, the 100% of the market. And out of that, they're pulling in the business. So remember that stat I talked about earlier, 90%? That 90%, it doesn't mean that they don't need a TV commercial. It means that they don't see that they need a TV commercial. So what we did is we targeted specific companies, not by niche or niche, but by their pain points. What are the pain points that those companies had that a TV commercial could solve? Now, we weren't targeting big brands. We weren't targeting people who already had TV commercials. We were actually targeting people who'd never done TV commercials before. So they'd never had a TV presence before. Showing up on LinkedIn, my favorite channel, of course. They were showing up on LinkedIn, but everything was pitching to the people who go, hey, do you want a TV commercial? Or this is how good our TV commercials are, blah, 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 blah. What we did was position them to say, have you ever considered a TV commercial? TV is a great way to do X, Y, and Z. And we primed, as we call it, primed their market to create clients who were interested in going onto TV. And, you know, I could go on for ages about TV, but TV, for an example, is not as expensive as it used to be. You know, 10, 15 grand and you can have a TV commercial running for a month in the UK. So we did repositioned them, and then changed the content that they were producing, and then very hyper-relevant outreach. I do not mean by this hyper-relevant outreach. I don't mean hyper-relevant in terms of, oh, I've done a personalized template message. I mean spending real solid time crafting something that is exactly personalized. Ryan, who was in the chat earlier, I know Ryan's done something similar. He's one of our accelerators, and he's done very personalized outreach, like not just no automation, just personalized outreach with effort into each individual message, each individual email. And what they found is in the 3-month period, 4 new clients, £200,000 in sales. They've doubled the size of the business now. 3 years later, they've moved premises. They've increased their staff count. Why? Because they've built a way that can convert new clients. They can create new clients, and it's working for them all day long. Now they're using LinkedIn and they're using email, but it's the same principle, whatever channel you use. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, any of those things. Cold calling, email, you can use the same principles, cold calling's a bit tougher, on any channel. So that's an example from video production. Now I want to give you a HR consultant, because this is a slightly different one. And again, it's client creation. When you do this work, when you dig into the process of why do my customers need me, it starts to open up your eyes to where you should be positioned in your business. Sometimes when we lead a business, we get lost in what we're talking about. We get lost in our own world. And it can be helpful to step outside of your little business bubble to see how the world, your customers, view the things that you can help them with. So this example, HR consultant, they came to us, HR consultancy, with retainer clients, basically. That's what they did, a retainer model, circa £500 to £1,000 a month. They wanted more clients, and they reviewed, after they came onto our program, they reviewed their pain points, looked at why do people need us, and when they did that, they actually changed their offer. They started going, this is what we're doing, we're offering retained work. Actually, on reviewing the pain points of our customers, pain points of the market, we need a different offer. What we're selling doesn't fit, or doesn't fit as easily with the market that based on what we've done. Showed up on LinkedIn feeds, my favorite channel. Pain point focused content and messaging. £100,000 worth of new business in 3 months. No automation, no pitching, none of that horrid stuff that you see on LinkedIn. They just did it. That's all they did. Alice. Oh, Alice, Happy New Year. Io, hi. Ryan, Sarah. Brilliant. Nice to see everybody's engaging and enjoying the session so far. So it all starts with the very simple stuff. And I want to reference, you can see over Christmas I've been playing with my slides, can't you? I want to reference Elon Musk here, and I want to tell you a story about Elon Musk because it highlights what I'm talking about. So Elon Musk, and there's a video on YouTube, you can watch it. It's called Elon Musk First Principles. It's worth watching. So Elon Musk decides he wants to build space rockets and go to Mars. Now, Elon Musk had no experience building space rockets when he did this. What he did was he went to NASA. He went to NASA and had a look at how do you build space rockets? And he looked at how it was done. He also looked at, actually, NASA, why are you not doing more in space? And NASA's answer was, it's incredibly expensive. It's very, very expensive. And then he looked at, okay, how much does it cost to send a rocket into space? And it come up with hundreds of millions, ridiculous amount of money. And then he went, well, okay, if we want to do this SpaceX thing, we need to find a way to do this cheaper. We have to make it more viable to go into space. It has to be more of a viable business. How do we get people up and down as cheap as possible and as safely as possible? So he then looked at other space agencies around the world, like China and Russia, to look at how do they build their rockets. And their rockets were cheaper, but not by much. So, you know, if NASA's was $500 million, Russia's was $400 million, you know, there wasn't that much difference. And he saw that actually you need to bring the prices really down to make this sustainable. So he approached it on a scientific basis of first principles. In other words, when you boil the problem down to its simplest, you actually can build up from there. And so what he did was when he went to SpaceX and said, okay, we need to build a rocket. How do we build a rocket cheaper, but equally as safe? And he knew, looking at the rockets, you know, if you look at the components of the rockets, actually the cost of the materials to build the rocket was negligible. It was, you know, 2-3%. So what was, if the cost of the material of the rocket was 2 or 3% of the cost, what was everything else? So he approached it from a first principles point of view of, if we need to build a rocket to space, what does that rocket need to do and how do we need to do it? And he came up with the idea of, we actually need to reuse the rockets. We need to reuse it. A lot of it is wasted. It's built, manufactured, people spend months building them, and then they're destroyed. So this is where SpaceX came about. And now, and he was ridiculed. Neil Armstrong, one of his heroes, actually said he was mad. And you can watch the video of that where it looks like Elon Musk going to cry on YouTube. But this first principles is a scientific method of boiling the problem down to its simplest components so you can understand it better and build a solution. And he did that, and now SpaceX takes the NASA astronauts to space. So the principle, first principles, actually is a very powerful concept. Whether or not you use it in lead generation, whether you use it in sales, anything in life, it's a powerful principle. And we're going to use it today. We're going to use it today. So let's just use the first principles basis again and go, what has to happen for you to get a client? And we're going to boil it down to its most simplest example. So we simplify as much as we possibly can so that we can understand this better. So just before we go any further, why don't you have a think? What has to happen in your business At its simplest level, at the most basic level, what has to happen in your business for you to get a client, just one. And I'm going to walk you through some of the, very, very simple stuff. But from that simple stuff, we can build up. And, we're selling to human beings. Whether you're a multinational watching this, whether you're a solopreneur watching this, we're selling to human beings. And so our job is not to make things more complicated, it's actually to make things simpler. So what has to happen for you to get a client? It's really simple. I'm going to move out of the way a little bit. It's really, really simple. Prospects need to be aware. They need to be able to relate, and they need to believe. In what? They need to be aware, they need to be relatable to it, and they need to believe. In what? In you, as the person selling the product or service, that you're trustworthy, you're credible, you know what you're talking about. They need to do that in your value, the difference you make to them, and your offer, the product or service you're going to deliver. So let me just unpack this for a minute, because whilst it's being very, very simple, it's actually quite a big concept. So prospects need to be aware, see you, understand it, just be able to see it. They need to be able to relate to how that is relevant to them. And they need to believe it, they need to trust in it. It needs to be credible. And then 3 components of what you need to do. You, your value, your offer. You as a person, you are credible, you are a good human being, and that they can work with you and they engage and get on with you. If you're the salesperson, if you're the solopreneur, whatever it is, they need to get you. They need to get your value. Now, what do I mean by your value? Now, this is a tricky one. And in our programs, I spend a lot of time with people helping them unpack this. And if some of them are in this session who are on the accelerator, you can add to this because it is a tricky bit. Your value, and I'd love to do a little whiteboard session on this because it would be much easier. But your value is not about the components that make up your product. Your value is not, to use the Elon Musk example, the cost of the raw materials of the rocket. Your value is the fact that that rocket can get into space. So in your product or your service, the value for customers in your product or service is not in the time, it's not in the raw materials, it's in getting those astronauts off the ground at Cape Canaveral or wherever and into space. Getting them off the ground, how do we get this up in the air? How do we get this up? Pain, where they are right now, the struggle, the cost of an expensive rocket, it's costly, it's costing us money, it hurts, we can't do it as much because it's too expensive. To actually, I can get you up there and it's cheaper or it's more efficient. Your value to your customers is in the pains and challenges you solve and the outcomes you deliver. And so they need to be aware, your customers, your target customers need to be aware of the difference you make to their business. They need to be able to relate and see for themselves how that could work for them. Relate your value to them. They need to believe that your value will deliver for them. So I have this saying, people need to believe that you can do what you say you can do. But they also need to believe that you can do what you say you can do for them. 2 different things. So they need to believe your value will work for them. So those 3 key elements, aware, relate, and believe, needs to apply to you as a person, the person selling, the front person if you're a solopreneur, you as an individual, your value, the difference you make, pain to outcome, the current reality to the future state. Where are you going to get them? What's the difference you're going to make in their business? And then the offer. Now, what do I mean by the offer? I mean your product, your service. What are you selling? If I look across social media, and that's the place I camp out most of the time, and I look across actually email, a lot of people are promoting their business and saying how wonderful they are, but they're not telling people about their product. They're not telling people this is what it can do and this is how you can buy it. You're not, as I would call it, putting the four corners of your product together, your offer together. So if you're selling a service, what is the service? What's the price? What's the service? Many people don't define that and promote that. They don't put it out there into the space so that people can understand it. So you need to focus on making sure that your offer is out into the market and your offer is clear. Your product is clear, what it can do for people. Your messaging around your product is very sharp and focused. It's not waffly. Because if people don't understand what your offer, your product or service is, they can't relate and apply it to their business, and they don't believe that it can deliver value, they will never buy. Another famous saying I always use, if people believe, they will buy. So for you to sell something, they have to see you, they have to understand it, and they have to believe in it. And so we can say, well, actually, we'll just go after the 3% and say, hey, do you need this widget? Hey, do you need this widget? And hope that some people buy the widget. Or we can turn our sights not just to the 3%, but to the 90% and go, let's show them how we can make a difference in their business. Let's show them how we can eliminate this challenge, this frustration that's operating in their business, and take them to a place where it's actually better, it's improved. And that is your job. That is the job of a business, and lead generation and selling are really the two elements of doing that job. If you want more leads, you have to get people curious to want to make an inquiry of some kind. If we think about a lead magnet, a PDF download or a white paper, for people to download that, to give you their email address, there has to be something in it for them. That's why they would give their email. People don't download lead magnets because it was there. They download it because there was something about it that was interesting to them. So what does interesting mean? Well, for me, interesting means it could tell me something that could help me. It could tell me something that could help me. So if we hold that, it could tell me something that could help me in this hand. And our job is to create lead magnets that feed our services and our product, our offer. So my job with a lead magnet is to go, this will help people see how I can help them. It's about my product, my service, the things I do, and this person's here is, this might help me solve a problem or get to a goal. And when you match those two together, you get a lead magnet that attracts people who need you. What often we do, and I saw this the other day, is a lead magnet about how to grow businesses that was being downloaded, but it actually was for enterprise level CRMs. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. You're going to get a load of small business owners downloading this to realize this is an enterprise level product. So your lead magnets, should be a feeder to the service. So if you think about what are the challenges and frustrations that customers have that your product or service can fix, what are those things? Now, reverse engineer your lead magnet from that. How can you bring a light bulb moment to people about those challenges? How can you bring a light bulb moment about those opportunities and outcomes they want to achieve? 5 reasons why X goal is difficult to reach. Lead magnets should, by nature, lead to the sale. A lead is somebody who's interested and wants to know more. And so if you do your lead magnets well, based on the pains and outcomes, and make sure that this is the goal. So you might have a lead magnet that just gets your awareness. You might choose to do a lead magnet that just makes people aware of who you are. Great. But actually, the key thing is you've got to do a lead magnet that shows your value, shows how you can make a difference to their world. If you don't do that, you can't achieve a result. You can't achieve any transformation. So if I just go back and go, okay, let's just think about this question again. And I want you to think about it for a minute. We're going to pause for a minute whilst you think about this. What has to happen for you to get a sale? For you to make a client? For you to create a client? What has to happen? At its very simplest terms, they have to need something that you've got. That's simple. So if your service fills a need, what's that need? What's that need? Many people are selling on components. We go back to Elon Musk. They're going, actually, I can sell you $100 million or $50 million worth of metal and components. Well, there's no value there. The value is in those components being assembled into a spacefaring rocket. And Elon Musk's value was in assembling those components in a way that was more efficient than they could do it themselves. Think about it. Elon Musk built rockets to supply NASA, who were doing it themselves. He found a way to do it that filled a need. They weren't looking for Elon Musk. They weren't looking for SpaceX. They wanted a more efficient way to get to space. And Elon studied it, adopted first principles, and found a way to do it in a more efficient way and a more sustainable way. Your job with your product or service is to look at the market and go, how does my product help them do something they're doing already in a better way that solves problems? Every product or service, every business has a problem, a frustration, a challenge. And every business has goals and objectives they want to achieve. Your job is to understand how your product or service can resolve any challenges they've got and any goals or outcomes. How can it make them even a step closer to those? That's what you've got to do. Now, if you're a new entrant to a market, perhaps you might think, well, actually, we've got competitors in the marketplace. How do we get somebody away from a competitor? How do we move them away? Because I ring them up and they say, oh, we're happy with how things work, thank you. Yet I know that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. You have to study the market. You have to become an expert in your market's pain points. What are the challenges that they have? What are your competitors' weak points? In other words, what problems does your competitor create as part of what they're doing, their service? What's the gap in their service that they've got another problem because of that service? That might be a shock or difficult to get your head round, but lots of people, lots of businesses will create new challenges. If you get a brilliant salesperson, perhaps you hire a brilliant salesperson. You're a brilliant salesperson. You hire a brilliant salesperson and they're closing deals like there's no tomorrow. Yeah, fantastic, brilliant. That salesperson is brilliant. However, that salesperson has just created a new problem, because now you've got more orders coming in, you've got more customers to manage, more products to deliver. So even a good service or product creates a new problem. So for your product or service, don't just look and go, who can I sell to? Look at your competitors and see what new problems are your competitors causing that you fix. I did this example with an IT company a couple of years ago, whereby they were struggling to get into clients, because a lot of the clients they were targeting were signed up on multi-year deals. And so they couldn't get a look in for years, and sometimes they'd have to sit it out and wait for years to tender or to pitch for a service, because it'd be tied down for a few years. Now, of course, sometimes contracts would be ended early and that would be fine. They could pursue those. But invariably, they were finding that this was a problem. It was a ceiling on their revenue. So what we did is a principle called land and expand. Land and expand. It's common, and we teach about this in the accelerator. Land and expand is a basis of going, look at the market's problems. So we looked at the IT companies, the companies that needed IT services, issues. And we looked at what problems were the competitors making for those companies. And we created what we call a land service, whereby we add a new service to our portfolio to solve the problems created by our competitors. And we approach companies with these services, which are ad hoc, one-off, not excessively expensive. In their scenario, I think it was £5,000 to £10,000 to go in as a one-off thing. And whilst they're there, their mission is to deliver that service exceptionally well and really delight the customer. But whilst they're there, their job is to expand that relationship to a future relationship. Likewise, if somebody said this to me a few years ago, thinking about that, every problem creates a new problem. Every good service, the brilliant salesperson, will create another problem. Your services will create new problems. So if you think about your offering to customers, you might have a product here, and I'll just use examples. You might have a diagnostic product that's £500. And out of that diagnostic product, you then can upsell them to a bigger product. And you can upsell them to a bigger service. Land and expand. So land and expand is tried and tested model. It's used in lots of big companies. You start with a product or service to get your foot in the door, to open an opportunity. And you move up the value ladder, solving bigger and bigger problems, with actually what your main service right now could actually be the top tier product, depending on the size of the product that you do. And I've seen this work in marketing agencies, in consultancies, in any kind of business, even in accounting. They use this model of land and expand. Use something to get your foot in the door, and then expand the relationship and expand the offering to the client. That means you can make a very focused pitch on social media or on any channel where you want to really communicate value quickly, because you can offer one product. You can put one service in the market that's a land and expand product, the bottom one, and grow the relationship from there. It could be an SEO audit, it could be a marketing audit, it could be a website check service. Anything like that could be, if it's free, it would be a lead magnet. If it's paid, it would be a land and expand service that starts your value ladder to your full service. So what has to happen for you to get a client? They need something that you can offer. Then they need to be aware of you. They need to be able to relate to you. Can I get on with these people? Do I think that they're good people? And do I believe that you can deliver what you say you can deliver, and deliver it for me? This is the fundamentals of what you've got to do. So your value is not the components of the rocket, it's the rocket itself, what the rocket does. So if I went out to the world and said, hey, do you need a rocket? Well, if I'm looking for a rocket right now, I might be interested. But if I said to companies, hey, do you want to get people to the International Space Station? We can show you how to do that, or we can help you get there. That's a different story. It's a different message. The pains and the outcomes that you can solve completely positions you in a different way to selling a product or service. Those 90% that we talked about earlier who are not looking for what you're selling will pay attention if you hit their pain point. They'll pay attention if you hit their goals and their outcomes. So your job, my job, is to know the pains and outcomes of my customers really, really well. So here's one tip. One of the things that I do, and I do this on a frequent basis, is I post on social media, and sometimes I've got some flack for doing this, and I've done polls, I've done them on Facebook groups, I've done them in lots of different places where I've asked questions to get people's answers so I can understand the market better. Not just about the topic or the pain or the outcome, but I'm actually looking for the way that they're talking about the pain or the outcome. So, for an example, I know that different people will respond to the words leads versus sales. So I know that the word leads will attract it pays attention to one group of people, and sales attracts another group of people. But the two words are very similar in that they revolve around the same topic. So I will do a poll on LinkedIn, for an example, and I'll say, which is your top priority for 2022? Lead generation, sales, marketing, or revenue growth? In a way, they're all similar. They overlap. But I'm looking for the wording to understand my customers and my market better. To understand that actually, if people need to relate to a particular issue, the wording really matters. So let me give you an example. If your business, let's say you're all business owners, and your business has some challenges around, cash flow, let's say cash flow. And you are scrolling on LinkedIn, and I've got a post about how to boost your cash flow in 2022. And I talk about it and then say, I've got a checklist here or a guide of some simple things that you can do to boost your cash flow in 2022. Click and download. How to boost your cash flow in 2022. Who will that appeal to? It will appeal to people who are concerned about their cash flow, who have a concern about their cash flow. Or how to fix your cash flow and build your bank balance, pain and outcome. Again, it would appeal to people who have a concern. If there's no need, there's no lead. Simple rule, no need, no lead. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to spin need and want on its head. So most people in marketing will say, focus on the wants, what people want. I'm going to focus on what people need. And I'm going to define them differently. I define as a need as something that has to happen because I'm under pressure if it doesn't. Need is about pain. It's about frustration. It's about deadlines. It's about pressure. Want is about desire. Yeah? It's about the future. It's about goals. If there's no need, the want people will never take action. Yeah? So in a lead generation term, content marketing, all of that stuff, if you appeal to people's wants, You won't attract serious people who are seriously considering changing because there's no pressure on them needing to change, because there's no need. So for you to be successful in communicating through marketing, through social, lead generation, you have to hold need and want intention with each other. If you appeal to, say for an example, if I did a post on LinkedIn and I did how you can make £1 million of sales in the next 30 days or in the next 90 days, I would appeal to people who did want to do that, but there's no serious intent behind them doing it. And the intent comes from pain. It comes from frustration. It comes from challenges. It comes from issues that are going on. Look at your own behavior as a human being. Yeah? Why is it that human beings seem to only take action when there's a hard deadline and there's consequences of the hard deadline? You look at it. How many jobs, how many tasks have you put off because there's no pressure to get them done? You could have done them by now. You could have done them last week, the month ago, 6 months ago. You could have done them. But there was no pressure to do it. There was no consequence of not doing it. So you didn't do it. But if tomorrow a consequence came on the horizon as a result of that task not being done, you would put it to the top of your list. So if you're marketing your product, creating lead magnets, posting content, you need to think about where's the pressure coming from inside that business that means they need to take action on this area. So if I'm selling something, what's the pressure within that business to take action that fits and dovetails with my service or product? Yes, include the outcomes and the results. That's always good. Hold them together. But actually, it's the pain points that push people to take action. And the outcomes are a reassurance of the two. If you go all outcome, you get a lot of tire kickers. If you go all pain, you get very desperate, needy people. Yeah, and I've done this in a marketing agency. If you do the negative, you get a lot of negative alone. You get a lot of desperate people, and if you do the outcomes on its own, you get a lot of tire kickers at the extremes, of course. So it's really important that you think about this: aware, relate, believe about you, your value, pain and outcome, and your offer. The tangible elements of what this product does and what it can do. Make sure they understand it. Put the four corners on it. Make it clear. Totally clear. Nobody can misunderstand what it is you're doing, what it is you're offering. And make sure your price is clear too. Make sure that people understand where the product is positioned in the market, so that they don't you don't end up attracting people thinking it's 50 quid and it's £5,000. Make it clear. So let's have a look at some client creation tactics. We've got about 45 minutes to go. And if there's any questions, please do put them in the chat. I'm just going to have a look through, see if there's any chats here. Somebody's asked, what can be the strategy in an organisation of events and trade show? Okay, so it depends what you mean there. I can't see the name of the person, but if you're looking at doing an event, and events are interesting at the moment. We used to do events every week, and now we're online. But if you're looking to use an event or attract people to an event, you need to understand why they need to show up. Why would they show up? What's in it for them? What's the challenges that coming to this event could solve for them? What's the breakthrough ideas that could solve them? Niall, what's the best way to find leads? I'm going to come to that in a moment, but actually what I find is, well, I'm going to tell you two points here, Niall. I find that content is the best lead generation tool when it's done well. However, we teach content and outreach at the same time. The two, we talk about a principle called priming. I'll go off topic for a minute, just so that Niall's answered questions. So Niall's, do you want to put Niall's question up on the screen so that people can see it? Right, what's the best way to source leads, I find? So here's what I do. I use my social media as an agitation tool. So I talk about pain a lot and outcomes a lot in my content. Yes, I share things about me, but I share things that are related to the pains and outcome goals of my clients and target clients. I find that over time, because I've built up momentum behind it, I'm constantly posting, constantly sharing different things and repurposing content in different ways, that I'm getting inbound inquiries from that, both on our website, people coming from LinkedIn to our website, people coming from other channels to us, and doing that. Number two, so content in all its forms, videos, blogs, lead magnets, posts, the works are delivering for me. But, big but, to do it where, I mean, we've got 45 people in this company. So a lot of our business is now generated from content. A ton of it is coming from content. In the early days, we did a lot of outreach, and we still do outreach, but a lot of our inbound stuff now, a lot of our inbound is from content. And we've been prolific, consistently prolific. That said, if I was starting from scratch today, Dean in his back bedroom, this is what I'd do. I'd go on LinkedIn, I'd grow my network, I'd post content every day, and I would be engaging and interacting what I call the 7 steps. So we have a concept we call priming, which is about using content and outreach in a very specific way to do the awareness, relate, and believe about your value. Simple. We do that in content. That's number one. Number two, and then I'll go to Robert's question. Number two, the other one that we do quite well now is hyper, and I mean hyper personalized email outreach. Hyper personalized. So I don't mean automated. Yeah, I've done the automation thing. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. So we'll target one company, we'll engage with them on LinkedIn and interact with them, and then we'll do our research and we'll send an email to the decision maker with a thought out plan of how we can help their business, with screenshots and personalized examples, so that it's I mean, totally, it takes about 20 minutes of work to do one email. Yeah, the conversion rate of them, and we were doing about 11 or 12 emails before Christmas. I think it was 11 or 12 of them a day. The conversion rate is about 40%. So we do 12 a day, 40% conversion or response rate. I don't know where the conversion is, to be fair, but it's high, 25% or something of the response rate, 40% response rate. Let me just correct the facts here. 40% response rate and 25% conversion rate of the whole total. So about 4 sales of 12. Hyper personalized. Yeah, most people wouldn't want to waste that much time. They'll happily spend 3-4 hours on automation, but they won't spend 20-30 minutes on converting, 20-30 minutes on 12 per 12. So 6 hours. They'll spend 6 hours and get 4 clients, or they'll spend 3-4 hours and hopefully get 3 or 4 clients. Works. So Niall, if I was writing an email for you, I would literally research your business, research your company page, research your website, find the gaps of where I could help you. And I'd actually do almost like, not a presentation because that's a bit heavy, but I'd actually do, this is how I could help you achieve X, Y, and Z. And do it as a presentation. And Niall, if you want to ping me an email, the email's on the screen, we'll send you an example of how we do it. So if you want to see an example of how we do it, I'll send you an example. Robert asked a question. So Robert, what's the pressure to take action? Well, Robert, whether it's a new product or not, and this is really, really good. If you think back to early 2007, when Steve Jobs released the iPhone, and I'm using this example, even if it's a small business or a big business, it's the same concept. Steve Jobs introduced the keyboardless phone. That's what he introduced. Nobody was looking for a keyboardless phone. Yeah? But he showed people in his demonstrations why the keyboardless was annoying. He showed why it was frustration. If you want to, sorry, just to jump in, if anybody wants a copy of that personalized email, just email hi@maverick.io and we'll send it to you tomorrow. So, Robert, if you're trying to introduce a new service or a new product, you don't need to tell them about the amazing product it is. You have to tell them about the amazing outcomes and pains it solves. So if they've got this problem, want to get to this destination, this outcome, our product can do that. And so the less you get involved in the technicalities of the product, the better it will be. That's the key thing. So who else has asked some questions? One of the challenges is corruption. How do you still apply these skills where some key buyers expect bribes or commission? I can't answer that one. That's a real tricky one, that. Yeah, Albert, yes, we can send it. Selling my music locally and nationally, are there pain points different? Local sales and local marketing is different because you can tag it in terms of relevance to a geography. So for an example, Jerome, you can leverage local press and local media more easily than national media. So you need to think about, if you're looking at launching your music on a national scale, where's the frustrations, where's the gaps in the market, where does people appeal and where do they not? What do they need and what have they not got? That's what you're trying to do. It's trickier local or national. Now, the other thing to think about with this client creation tactics, particularly on social media, is I would encourage you to write down a number. How many clients do you need in 2022? How many clients do you? In fact, write it down in the chat. Just before we go any further, I know this is a bit childish, but it helps me with the interaction. Write in the chat how many clients you need new clients you need in 2022. Don't count the people who are already existing clients, just the brand new clients you need in 2022. So let's just do that. Put it in the chat now, how many clients you need in 2022. If you need a copy of the hyper-personalized email, simply email us on screen. So email the hi@maverick.io. 25. So Michael needs 25 clients. Anybody else want to share how many clients they need in 2020? 20. Sarah said 20. Any more? 100. 200. 25 to 40. 35. 10. 5. 5 brand new clients for Gautam. Andrea, 150. Paul Litton, 20. Jay Unwin, 25-ish. Gio, 25. 20. 5. So let's think about this, right? So Ellen's just said 5. CJ, 50. There's quite a lot of you putting those in now. If you need 20 to 25 clients, or 10, 100, whatever it is, 30, 1,000, right. Now, when we start to get to 1,000, it gets a little bit scary because you need a lot of scale. But let me share with you, in a year, Maverick has more than 1,000 clients, and about 50 to 60% of our clients come from content. 50 to 60% of it come from content. Now, if you're anywhere under 100, if you're under 100 clients in a year, right, you do the maths on that and work that out. 100 clients. How many is that a month? It's 8.3, so call it 9. 9. How many hours per month are you going to donate over to client acquisition? If you're gonna do, let's say you decide I'm going to do an hour a day, so 5 hours, 20 odd hours a month, 22 hours a month to get 10 clients, right? 22 hours a month to get 9 or 10 clients. If you can't do that, or that doesn't stack up, let me tell you, there is something wrong with what you're doing in those 22 hours. So here's what I would do. I've not put this on the notes. I'm going to get to some other bits and pieces in a minute. Number 1, right? Invest in content. Let me tell you about what my content schedule is, my personal content schedule. And I'm sharing this because I deliberately limit myself to the same thing my clients have to do. So on our accelerator program, it's people coming going, how can I replicate what you do as Maverick? How can I learn these strategies and implement them? I do exactly what they do. So despite having 40 odd people, of which 5, 6 of them are in a media team, I write my own content. I post my own content. I make my own images. I make my own PDFs. I make my own slides. Why? Because if I can't do it, I can't teach other people to do it. So here's what my schedule looks like. I write a LinkedIn post. Off that LinkedIn post, I build it out into a podcast. I then translate that into a blog. I then tidy that up because I use lots of ums and ers and all that kind of stuff. I tidy that up and publish that blog. I then make that into Instagram images. Yeah, I am doing the same thing. So I invest in that, not every day for every channel, but LinkedIn every day. Podcast 3 times a week. I do that that myself. I'm doing that content not for what it'll get me now. So if I put a podcast episode out or a post out, yes, I want some traction back. But if I was starting from scratch, I'm not doing it hoping that something comes in today. I'm thinking about this as I'm building awareness so people can relate to me and so people can believe about me, my value, and my offer. I'm doing that every single day. And actually, I get inbound leads all the time now because I've been building that over time. It takes between 3 and 6 months to really make that work. At the same time, I'm engaging with prospects and I'm interacting with prospects on LinkedIn, getting to know them and setting up times to speak. So, John, right, I should have brought a glass of water because my mouth is red raw from talking for 45 minutes. So, I write a LinkedIn post. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to break this down in a bit more detail. So number 1, I write a LinkedIn post. I track the engagement and the interactions with that LinkedIn post to see if it's the right people and it's successful. In other words, does it spike with the right people in the right places? Does it work as a post? Because not every post you put up, some posts you put up and they're a bit crap. Yeah, some just don't work. So I track what worked, what didn't work. Not just views, but what else was going on around that post. Of the ones that worked well, I turn it into a podcast. So I'll just use the post as notes and then do a podcast about it. I find, actually, I didn't do podcasts for a while, I did videos, but I actually find podcasts a bit easier to do than videos. I feel uncomfortable doing videos. So I do them, but I feel more comfortable with audio. Surprising because I didn't realize that until I started doing it. So LinkedIn post, check it out and test it, turn it into a podcast. When I've turned it into a podcast, I then transcribe it. You can use something like Otter AI or rev.com or any of those, transcribe it. So now I've got the raw text. So I've got the raw text, which has ums, ers, ahs, and I tidy that up into a blog. That goes on Medium, and it goes on LinkedIn, and it goes on the website. Done. I'll then make slides and PowerPoints and all that kind of stuff and produce webinars out of those topics. And so I'm using the same material to create a LinkedIn post, a podcast, PDF resource, a webinar, and God knows whatever else. Instagram, but I've kind of parked Instagram because I've been doing some testing first before I did it. So I've done all of that from one LinkedIn post that worked well. So that's my content. That will feed me for the future. So the podcast, the posts, the PDFs, all of that will feed me for the future. I'm not expecting immediate ROI off the content. I'm expecting that it will take me 7 to 11 views from an individual before they get the message from that content. So that's the long-term stuff. The content is the long-term stuff. That's the stuff that will work while I'm sleeping. That's the stuff that will work over time. That takes me about 45 minutes per day. So that's half my time on if I'm doing it your way, an hour a day. Just over half my time. The rest of my time, I focus on what I call the 7 steps, which is engaging with prospects, interacting with them, and doing some of the personal, hyper-personalized outreach. So I don't do huge tons of outreach. I do more on the content than I do on the outreach, massively more. But I do some outreach to see if it'll help people. So that's my process. So if I've got 22 hours and I've got to get 9 clients a month, what the content piece does for me, because I'm learning and tweaking because of how people respond to it, what the content does for me is goes into the future and makes the future leads easier to reach because they know who I am, they're aware of what I do, and they're aware of how I help. So I do that in the future. That's the long-term stuff. My outreach is the short-term stuff. Gautam, when does it turn into ROI? That's a difficult one to answer. For me, you could do one post and it could convert. Of course it could. You could do one post and it could convert. And I've done that and I do that. But that comes through learning. So what I encourage people to do, if they're going to go into the content space and they're going to prolifically go into the content space, it will take you some time, not just to get ROI, but for you to hit the right notes, for you to hit the right pain points and the right outcomes. So there's a research period for you. Once you've gone through that process, and I encourage you to go through it in real time. So post and see what happens, learn. Post, see what happens, learn. Post, see what happens, learn. I used to say 2 to 3 weeks, but I think it's actually longer, to be fair. I think in about 3 months, you actually get the real hang of it. You really get it now. And you've got ROI at 3 months from doing it. If you're learning as you go, you've got ROI. Most people won't commit to it because they get disappointed by the failure along the way. Failure is part of the process. You will write posts that suck. You will write posts that achieve nothing. Some weeks it'll feel like you're wasting your time. But you will, if you're learning as you go, you'll find the right and hit the right notes. And that's when the leads come in. So 3 months to do it properly. Done. Now I'm outreaching. And actually my outreach, excuse me, my outreach benefits from the content because when I reach out to people, they kind of know who I am because we're connected. You know, we're interacting on the platform. I'll interact with them on the platform, what we call the 7 steps. I'll interact on the platform. The content's doing some of the work. They kind of know who I am. I ask them, can we have a conversation? Go on the conversation, chit chat with them, explain what we do, the problems we solve for people. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, send me a proposal on that. That looks really interesting. I'll send a proposal, have a follow-up call. That's what we do. So if you've got 22 hours or 24 hours, whatever it is, an hour a day per business day, and you've got to get 10 clients, which is 120 in a year, which is, I think everybody was under that, That is your effort. And if you've got 24 hours to get 10 clients a month and it's not working, what you're doing in those 20 hours is the wrong stuff. But I'll assure you now, if you focus on the pains and the outcomes, the challenges, the wants and the needs, you'll actually get to the point where your content is hitting the notes. And when your content hits the notes, people come in. You don't need millions of views to do this. Some of the best posts I've done have got me the most leads, have been 1,200, 1,300 views on LinkedIn, which is not a huge amount for me. Some of my posts will hit 70, 80,000. Sometimes they'll hit one that it was like depressing 200. But some of the best posts for me have not, in terms of results of leads coming in, have not been the most traffic, the highest traffic or the highest engaged posts, because it's about the right people looking at the content. And if you're only after 9 or 10 clients, you might not need 100 views, but your message has to be so bang on for the people you're going. So you need to learn, I learned through implementation, learn through trial and error, to write content and posts that speak to the pains and goals of your customers that you know your product or service can help with. Now, I'm going to dig into another section, but we've got some questions here. Niall's asked a question here. Oh, Mo's asking. You can put that on screen for me. Here we go. What questions can you ask, or what content can you create to identify potential client pains points so that, and do you tend to develop a solution service based around your findings? So Niall, there's lots of ways I can answer this. So one of the best ways, I know in LinkedIn, some people, I'll answer your question in a moment. What content can I use to identify client pains? So I'm going to give you some simple stuff here that you can do right now. We've got 15 minutes left. So number one, if you're going to write a post, what you'll have to do, there's an exercise that you can do, and I can send it to you because I don't have time. So again, I'll put the email on screen, hi@maverick.io, ask for the Back to the Future training, and I'll share that with the Back to the Future training. This is a way to identify the target zone of a client's pain points. The simple way, I'll give you a quick overview. Sorry. Imagine your client's been with you for 6 months. What are the big benefits they've had? Number one, big benefits. So 6 months down the road, they're your client, they've had big benefits. What are they? Yeah? Write them all down. Write a list as long as your arm, as long as you can, and make them as specific as possible. Not improved operational efficiency, something specific. Do that. Then what you do is you reverse engineer backwards to the past and go, where are they now? So if you've helped them increase their profit margin by more than 10%, what's going on with their profit margin in the past? They haven't got one, they're losing money, they've seen it eroded by inflation. What's going on? So there's an exercise we teach about that. So that's the first part of that question. So what I would do is do that exercise, and then I would post content asking questions and talking about the pain point. So losing money, inflation destroying profit margins. I would talk about that to see how other people engage with it, how people view it. If lots of people view it, brilliant, that gives me an indication. Then what I would do is take that to a poll in a Facebook group or a LinkedIn post and ask people questions about that issue again to see how the market responds. Based off my posts that I've done testing that, and I've done off my polls testing that, I collate that into a new round of content. And the ones that do well become new podcasts and all the other stuff. So that's how I do it. So that's the first part of the question. What content can you create to identify potential clients' pain points? The posts, the Back to the Future exercise, test that out in the content, do some polls, refine it again. And you can do that in a space of a week. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out process, but it might mean you do it a couple of times, a few different times. So that's the first thing. Sometimes in that process, and I'll give you an example. When we started in 2014, we were a consultancy. And then we found that we knew a lot of stuff that clients didn't know. So we opened our training arm, and the training arm and the consultancy is still the biggest element of what we do. So we've got the consultancy to corporates and companies where we'll go in and work with them. We've got the training, which is the free stuff we do here, but we do paid courses as well. So we got the boot camp on the 11th of January on LinkedIn and content. Content and LinkedIn boot camp starts on the 11th of January and the 12th of January. So if you want details on that, just drop us a line. So that's the first thing. So we launched training. Then what we found was that as a result of the training, and this answers Niall's point, as a result of the training, we found that people now had the knowledge, but were struggling to implement because they'd get lost in the detail, they'd get lost, or they wouldn't retain all the information, or it didn't come naturally to them. So we launched the accelerator. And the accelerator is the training and implementation as part of a group. So you're with me in a group and we implement, and when you veer off, I come and guide you back. And it's an interactive group. There's a community around it. And so that was an evolution from our training. People had learned how to do it, but were struggling to implement it and implement it consistently. So Niall, we didn't necessarily launch new products, albeit we have launched new training as a result of seeing the changes in the pain points in the market. So when the pandemic happened or started, we knew that a lot of people would struggle to sell because they were reliant on phones, and people are now working from home, so it's harder to reach. And also some of the networking and business networking had disappeared, so people couldn't reach people. So we went all in on our training and coaching programs to help people do it without the cold calling and without the networking. So absolutely we did that. Yes, so sometimes we do evolve programs, and you should be the master of your client's pain. You should be the expert in the problems and the challenges that your clients have, because you fix them every day. They might have to fix them once or maybe twice. So let me just could you use a podcast in a tuition lead? If so, how? So most of my, Denise, I'm not sure what your tuition lead, what you mean there, but one of the things I'll do is I'll do a topic that I know is a pain point centric thing, and I will make sure it's out there to build an audience. And that will flow into other things. So they will build, and there will be some that are simple, and I'm going to answer Yusuf's question in a moment. So some of my content is about specific things. So how to generate leads on LinkedIn. And sometimes I talk about why your sales messages are not landing. Or why your sales messages are being ignored. So sometimes I'll talk about the strategy, sometimes I'll talk about the tactics, and sometimes I'll talk about the tools, but very rarely do I talk about the tools. And Yusuf, this plays again to what you're saying here. Maybe we can put Yusuf's question on screen. How do you streamline your content to get a very serious client? So, this is quite a tricky one to explain, but if you think about your client's company in tiers, you've got the decision maker, you've got the implementer, and you've got the people at the coalface. We call it captain, officer, and crew. The value, or the more serious clients, want solutions to strategic problems. So they're looking at the businesses overall, and looking at how can they resolve strategic problems, revenue, profitability, the direction, the mission, the vision, the goals, the objectives, the future. That's what the senior decision makers are looking at. The officers are looking internally within the business at what can we achieve? How can we make this more efficient? How can we do the tasks better? And the crew are dealing with the tools. How do we make this dial go? How do we become better navigators? All that kind of stuff. Now, what does that mean for Yusuf's question? Well, Yusuf's question is, how do I attract more serious? Stay strategic. Now, what I've found is when you talk about tools, the lowest level, like how to mine LinkedIn to get leads. How to mine LinkedIn to get leads. Just so you're aware, it's against the terms of service, so be careful doing that. How to mine LinkedIn to get leads. You actually attract, inadvertently, you're pitching to the people who want to do it themselves. You're pitching to the people who are looking for the cheapest option. Tools-based things appeal to people who are more in the DIY camp than anything. The one above that is the tactics, where you get a mix of DIY people and people who want help and value. But the strategic is where you unlock the real serious clients that want value. Value. It's about strategic. So strategic messaging around that. So how to write content that converts is tactical. How to build your revenue using organic content is more strategic. And 10 hacks for viral content is tools. So there's different tiers of how you structure content to appeal to different people. The ones that might seem to be the best traffic ones are probably not the best ones for clients, because they appeal to people who want to do it themselves. Nothing wrong with doing it themselves, but actually, I could sell a course to somebody who wants to do it themselves, but I could sell a program to somebody who's kind of hybrid-y, and I could sell a business transformation program to somebody who wants strategic. So that's how I think about this. Catherine, I don't have my podcast link handy, but if you search for Dean Seddon podcast, it should come up at the top of Google. I would ask, by the way, I've only got 7 minutes left. So if you've got questions or there's things you want from today's session, the 5 strategies to increase sales, if you want that PDF, just email us. The email is on the screen. Don't email in the chat, email us on the email on screen and say, can I have the 5 strategies to make sales lead magnet? Brilliant. Then if you want the Back to the Future exercise, the pain point exercise, you can email us for that. And I'm also going to make a little cheeky pitch. If there's any more questions, please do it. If you want to join our content or our LinkedIn bootcamp that will help you generate sales and leads, I'm going to email you a replay link tomorrow. I'll email everybody the replay link tomorrow. There's a few places left. I'll send you a link, and if you want to join, you can join, but there's only a few places left. And if you want help to join our accelerator, you want to implement with us together in our group program, you can join the accelerator. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Any other questions? I've got some more tips. So if there's any more questions, I'm going to, add them there. Remember, you don't need to dominate every channel. Yeah, my primary channel is LinkedIn. I'm building out the others, but we got to where we are by focusing on one channel. Yes, we're diversifying now, but if you're a solopreneur or a small business, one channel can give you everything. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, email, one channel can do it for you. You can get to about £1 million worth of business off one channel without reaching any saturation point. But the focus means that you build something that works because you're studying it and learning with it and implementing as you go. Master your pains and outcomes. Master them. Yeah. Remember what I said, you need to be the expert in the pains and outcomes that your product and service can deliver for your clients. Stick to a plan at all costs. So what I laid out to you earlier, do the back to the future exercise, post, test, tweak, post, test, tweak, post, test, tweak. If you implement that, 3 to 6 months down the road, you'll be getting leads from content. You will be doing it. So stick to the plan at all costs. I've done my LinkedIn examples. Robert, what you do is boost sales, which is applicable to a large proportion of LinkedIn users. How do you target more niche audience in LinkedIn effectively? So Robert, we're going to go a bit, that's why LinkedIn brought Sales Navigator out. You can target in a far more narrow way on LinkedIn using Sales Navigator. So you can target by industry, you can target by role, geography, you can target by keywords that they're using, all of those different things. You can target on LinkedIn just in the normal LinkedIn by what people are posting. So there's loads of ways to niche down, just like you can on Instagram by focusing on people who follow hashtags. You can do something similar on LinkedIn. And Sales Navigator helps you find people in particular verticals. Now, it's true that not every business will have the same pain points. Not every niche will have the same pain points, but you are one person. I assume you're one person, you might be a company or whatever, but you're one individual trying to market to many. And so you have a limitation of being able to do one message. Now, lots of people think that limitation of being able to do one message at once is a bad thing. Actually, it's a good thing. If you drill down and focus on one message, guess what happens? You attract people who resonate to that message. So just like Robert there said about niche, yeah, if you focus your message, that niche will find you too on social media. Not quickly, that's why on LinkedIn it's really brilliant that you can target your network and grow your network in particular verticals. So you could grow your network in verticals and focus your message, right? Really narrow and focus it really tightly and grow with just the right people. So you might end up with 1,000 connections, but it's all the 1,000 people you can help. And then you're going in with a razor sharp message to those 1,000 people. So Robert, that's how I do it. So if I was targeting tech startups, for an example, I know how to find them on Sales Navigator. I'd go out and outbound engage them to grow my network and connections. I wouldn't pitch them. I'd let them come under my content first, build relationships through engagement, and then outreach. We got a whole training on that in the LinkedIn Bootcamp and the Content Bootcamp. Any other questions before we wrap up for today? Going once. Going twice. Well, I'd just like to say, just before we wrap up, I'm going to send, if you want the resources, email us. I'll send the replay to everybody who's registered tomorrow. Please do come find Mavericks. We're on my YouTube, and we're on my YouTube today, and we're on a Facebook group of Mavericks. But if you want to come find Maverick on LinkedIn, go to our website, please do the thumbs up and the follows. It really helps us with the algorithm. You know how that works. Subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. That would be awesome. Io Banton had a question. Io Banton, go back up. So sorry, Io. I don't like to script webinars, so if people ask questions, what technical things do I need to consider? The content needs to hit the notes, as you say, hashtags. Hashtags are good for getting distribution, so choose your hashtags carefully. You want to choose hashtags that your clients are likely to follow. So, if you're trying to sell to marketers, use hashtag marketing, hashtag branding, those kind of things. Don't use hashtag video production, because that's not one that your clients are likely to be following. It's likely your competitors are likely following it. So that's one thing. Grow your network. If you're on LinkedIn, you need to grow your network. You need to grow it beyond your friends, beyond your colleagues, beyond the people you know. You need to go outbound and build relationships at scale. And I don't mean pitching people, I don't mean pestering people, I mean grow relationships and get your content out there. The beauty of it is, not every connection, if you're highly engaged on the platform and you're engaging with people, more people see your content. And so if more people are seeing your content and you're growing your network with the right people, you are doing that whole ARB about your value, you, and your offer. Real simple, but you have to work it. Build something that's sustainable. If you do this, it will sustain you for the long term. But the catch is, a bit like going to the gym in January, it's not going to work if you go to the gym for a week and then give up. Content and LinkedIn and any kind of social selling takes consistent action for you to build something. 7 to 11 touch points, content, engagement, interaction, 7 to 11 to organically generate inbound, 7 to 11 touch points. It's a bit less on outreach, but 7 to 11. So if you're doing prolifically doing content, you could be building your pipeline for the rest of the year by following that process. Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question. I need a drink now. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to share the resources. Please do the likes, the thumbs up and all that kind of stuff. That would be really, really appreciated. And Happy New Year. Go do all of this stuff. Don't just do that. Oh, that was nice. It was interesting. Go and implement this stuff. And I'll see you on LinkedIn or on my emails when I reply to everybody and give you all the resources. Thank you for watching and see you on the other side.